Hello students, how are you? I hope you are doing fine. I am also doing well. My name is Teacher Hilda and I will be taking you through literature in English for Senior 6. So I want you to get ready with your notebooks and pens so that we can study. I want to inform you that this program is brought to you by the Rwanda Education Board in partnership with MASTERCARD Foundation and Inspire, Educate and Empower, IEE, Rwanda. As you are aware, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the government of Rwanda has suspended activities that essentially bring many people together and unnecessary movements. That's why you see you don't move around so often, and it has done this to prevent the transmission of COVID-19. Schools have also been affected. That is why you see you are at home. So in our lessons, we shall be discussing The Text and Mole Farm. The Text and Mole Farm by George Orwell. Who do you think George Orwell is? When someone says George Orwell, what exactly comes into your mind? Do you think of an old man? Do you think of a slender man? Do you think of a tall man? What comes into your mind? So we shall be looking at his biography. Who is he? Where was he born? Why did he write the book? We shall also look at the plot summary. We shall try to look at the plot summary, trying to summarize chapter by chapter. We shall look at how events flow in the text. How do they flow in the text? Which event comes first and which event comes last? We shall also look at the characters. What characters are in the book? I don't want to give you answers right now because I want you to get excited about studying the book. What characters do you think are in the book and Mole Farm? And what are their character traits? By character traits, I know you all like to call them characterization, but for me, I love to call them character traits. So we shall also look at character traits. We shall also look at the themes, ideas, and motifs. What are the major points in the text? What do you think is the major point? What point keeps coming up, let's say, in each chapter of the book? We shall also look at the writer's effect. Why exactly does he decide? Why does he come up with the title Animal Farm? Why does he write why he writes? Why Animal Farm? Why doesn't he use like another word? Why doesn't he say like a farm of let's say some other thing? Why does he decide to choose animals? And why does he decide to write? What message did he want to bring out? What did he want to communicate? That is, we all look at that in the writer's effect. Did he want to communicate something important? Did he want to just entertain people? We shall be looking at all that in the writer's effect. So we shall also look at the lessons. What do you learn from the text? Do you learn anything? Do you pick any lessons? But remember, I want you to always remember that in literature, we always have positive lessons. Our lessons have to be positive. So I don't want you to forget that. So we shall also look at the lessons, what we learn from the book. And still at the end of the day, we shall answer questions on Animal Farm, on what we have learned. We shall answer questions to test if we have really understood about the book, and we can really answer questions when we come to sit for our exams. Come along and play with us. So in our lesson today, we are going to focus on the author. We are going to look at his biography. Where was he born? Who are his parents? Among other things. So we are going to focus on looking at his biography. So Eric Arthur Blair, he is well known for his pen name, George Orwell. His original name is Eric Arthur Blair, but most people call him George Orwell. He was born on the 25th of June, 1903 in India, and he died on the 21st of January in 1950 in London, England. May his soul rest in peace. He's an English novelist, an essayist, and a critic famous for his novels Animal Farm. Animal Farm was produced in 1945. And his other novel, 1984, which was also published in 1949. The latter, a profound anti-utopian novel that examines the dangers of totalitarian rule. Orwell never entirely abandoned his original name, meaning that he did not entirely abandon it. He kept his original name alongside, as he was using George Orwell as his pen name. But his book, Down and Out in Paris and London, which appeared in 1933 as the work of George Orwell, the surname he derived from the beautiful river Orwell in East Anglia. I think the geographers can try to locate the river. In time, nom de plume became so closely attached to him that few people but relatives knew his real name was Blair. The change in name corresponded to a profound shift in Orwell's lifestyle, in which he changed from a pillar of the British imperial establishment into a literary and political rebel. I guess you can also become literally rebels. Yeah. He was born in Bengal. His father was a minor British official in the Indian civil service. His mother, of French extraction, was the daughter of an unsuccessful teak merchant in Burma. His parents' attitudes, the attitudes of his parents were those of the landless gentry, of social status, of landless gentry, as Orwell later called lower middle class people. So they were lower middle class people whose pretensions to social status, had little relation. They had so little relation to their income. Orwell was thus brought up in an atmosphere of impoverished snobbery after returning with his parents to England. So their parents left and then still came back to England. He was sent in 1911 to a preparatory boarding school on the Sussex coast, where he was distinguished among the other boys by his poverty. Remember, his parents were so poor, so people would easily notice him that this one comes from a poor family, and his intellectual brilliance. Don't forget, however much he came from a poor background, he was so bright. His intellectual brilliance distinguished him from other boys. So he grew up a morose, withdrawn, eccentric boy, and he was later to tell the miseries of those years in his published autobiography essay. The title of autobiographical essay is titled Such Were the Joys. That was published in 1953. I hope you're trying to note down something. You are trying to learn something. So Orwell being an English novelist and essayist, he was also a journalist and a critic. You know, some journalists in the country, the good ones, you know. He was also a critic. Now, his work was characterized by lucid prose. Now, the word lucid means something that is easily understood, something that you can easily understand. So his work were characterized by lucid prose, biting social criticism, opposition to totalitarianism. Now, I want to tell you what totalitarianism is. Totalitarianism means a form of government in which the people have virtually no authority. The people have virtually no authority, and the state wields absolute control. For example, dictatorship. I think that falls in better. Like dictatorship, people don't have any say in anything, but the government has authority over everything. So that is what totalitarianism means. So opposition to totalitarianism and outspoken support of democratic socialism.
Come along and play with us.
So George Orwell, as a writer, produced literary criticism and poetry, fiction and polemical journalism. The word polemical comes from the word polemic, which means a person who writes in support of one opinion. You have an opinion that you support so much. So what you are going to do is you're going to support that opinion only, not any other opinion. So that is what the word polemic means. A person who writes in support of one opinion. So as a writer, Orwell produced literary criticism and poetry, fiction and polemical journalism, and is best known for the allegorical novella Animal Farm. The allegorical novella, allegorical comes from the word allegory, which means symbolic representation, which can be interpreted to reveal a hidden meaning. A presentation which can be presented to reveal a hidden meaning. Usually the meaning may be moral or political, depending on how you understand something, how you can interpret it. So his novella Animal Farm and the dystopian novel 1984. So this novel was published in 1949. Were you born by 1949? I don't think. I also wasn't born. So literally, I don't think one of us were around. But his novel was produced in 1949. And I think some of you have read this novel. If you have read the novel, then well and good. If you haven't, try to find it and read it. He also has non-fiction works. For example, The Road to Wigan, which was published in 1937. So this book, this non-fiction work, documents his experience. It documents his experience of working class life in the north of England. So his other non-fiction work is titled Homage to Catalonia, which was published in 1938. This accounts his experiences soldiering for the Republican faction of the Spanish Civil War. So the Spanish Civil War happened between 1936 to 1939. The historians can try to help us here because they might have studied the Spanish Civil War and they understand it better. So his book Homage to Catalonia documents his experiences while he was a soldier for the Republican faction. So his essays are so respected, and usually they are on politics and literature, language, and culture. So meaning he has a lot of work, lots of work that's so appreciated. That is why in 2008, the Times ranked George Orwell second among the 50 greatest British writers since 1945. So since 1945 to 2008, the Times say that George Orwell was the second among 50 greatest British writers. So meaning that is a good thing. Likewise, the way you perform in school, you can be like the first term, the first, second term, the first in third term. So meaning you are the first in all terms. So the school will say that you have been the first from first term to the last term. So Orwell's work remained influential in popular culture and in the political culture. And the adjective, now, the adjective Orwellian. Orwellian is an adjective that comes from the noun Orwell. We all know that an adjective modifies a noun. So what is the noun here? I want you to think about it. What is the noun? The noun is Orwell and the adjective is Orwellian, meaning the adjective Orwellian modifies the noun Orwell. And the adjective Orwellian, describing totalitarian and authoritarian social practices, is part of the English language. like many of his neologisms, such as Big Brother, Thought Police, Two Means Hate, Room 101, Memory Hole, Newspeak, Double Thick, Prose, Unperson, and Thought Crime. I'm going to try to repeat these ones for you so that they can sink in. The first one is Big Brother, Thought Police, Two Means Hate, Room 101, Memory Hole, Newspeak, Double Think, Prose, Unperson, and Thought Crime. So that has been a simple biography about the author of Animal Farm, who is George Orwell. And I want to pose some questions for you. According to what I have told you, have you learned anything? If I ask some questions, can you try to tell me what you have learned? For example, if I ask, who is George Orwell? Can you be able to answer that question? Would you be able to tell me who George Orwell is? Maybe you are going to discuss this same particular book to your friend, and your friend asks, who is George Orwell? Are you going to be able to answer such a question? So I want you to think of the answer. And the next question is, what was his original name? Did he have an original name and a fake name? Or he had one name? I want you to think about that. And if he had another name, why did he change his name? Why exactly did he change his name? Is there any reason as to why he decided to change his name? Is it there or it is not there? Then another question is, apart from Animal Farm, the text we are going to look at, what are his other literary works? Does he have other literary works? According to what I have told you a number of his works, his other novels, his other essays, among others. So I want you to note them down. What his other works. Of course, he has many literary works, but I want you to note them down. I want you to write them down to see if you have really understood something about George Orwell. So that has been a brief biography about George Orwell, the author of Animal Farm.
Come along and play with us.
So in our next lesson, we shall be looking at the plot summary, how events follow each other, or what events are in the book Animal Farm. And we shall also try to summarize chapter by chapter. So by plot summary, we shall be looking at what exactly is in the story. What does Orwell talk about? What does he want to communicate, among other things? So I want you to find the text, Animal Farm, try to read about it, try to understand the book, because we are going to summarize the book. We are not going to have enough time to read the book on this program so that you can try to understand. But however, we shall try to summarize chapter by chapter for those who cannot access the text. For those who cannot access the book Animal Farm, we shall try to summarize chapter by chapter. However, the best thing could have been that you try to find a text and read it, because that is so better. That is so much better, because as we are discussing, you can also try to write down some of your ideas, what you learned, what you think should be added in what we are discussing. So to conclude my lesson, we have looked at the biography of George Orwell. We have seen where he was born. We have seen who his parents were. We have looked at his works. We have looked at a number of things. We have really tried to exhaust part of his biography. So in our next lesson, let us try to prepare to look at the book, the plot summary of the book. What is in the book? What does the book talk about? In our next lesson, we shall be discussing the book. I want you to prepare for our next lesson. I also want to thank you for being good students and paying attention. Try to keep safe, stay home, sanitize, among other things. Don't move unnecessarily. Thank you. Stay safe. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, 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 teacher. Goodbye, children. See you next time. Goodbye, goodbye, teacher.